Everything awesome. Okay, great. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for being here. Right now, your cameras and mics are turned off, but towards the end, we always like to, be able to open it up. If anyone does have questions, please feel free to use the chat, all of that good stuff. And yeah, so just a couple reminders on our end before I throw it over to Amanda. We do have our registration for our final community exchange that's open. It's in Kendallville on December 13th. This is our last one. So for our NOMs and IMS communities that have to reach your education credit, if you've not been to a community exchange yet, you'll need to plan to send someone to that one. So definitely it'll be a great time. It'll be a really fun day. Also, it'll be decorated for Christmas, which will be super fun. So we hope to see you there. And then we have two webinars left, I think. So we have one in November, which is all about like grant writing best practices. And actually that might be it. Oh no, and then we have one in December with Tasha Sams from Main Street America. So yeah, hopefully you guys can tune into those. Other than that, we're I know you all are as well, wrapping up towards the end of the year. But obviously if anyone has any questions about our upcoming events or education opportunities, please just feel free to let me know. So real quickly, just a little bit about Amanda so I can introduce her to you all. Amanda is recently was named the Vice President of Field Services at Main Street America. She manages program officers and consultants, coordinating staff time, and co-creating technical assistance. Previously, she was a senior program officer and director of the California programs at Main Street America, and the executive director of the Richmond Main Street Initiative. She has worked for various nonprofits, produced large-scale community events, and developed the first property business improvement district in Richmond. She's been recognized with community service awards and has served on numerous boards and committees. And Amanda is also a singer-songwriter and has a family with 2 daughters and 2 grandchildren, which is super cool. So with that, I will kind of hand it over to you, Amanda, but thank you for being here with us today. We appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much, Abigail. Thanks for inviting me, and I am happy to be here and to share some information, some of the wisdom I guess I've gained since working with Main Streets as a former Main program, and also working with our California Main Street programs as a coordinator for the last 5 years. So today I have a presentation I'm going to share with you on committee recruitment and retention. And, it's a presentation that you may have seen before. Okay, let's see. I'm not sure what's going on here. I had it.
I can see that.
You can?
At least, at least from what I can, it's showing the full presentation.
Okay, I'm not seeing it though. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Is it showing it the full? It's not showing the full from the.
Yeah, I'm seeing the full slide.
You're seeing the full slide?
Mm-hmm.
With not just part of it?
Nope. Yep, I'm seeing the full thing.
Okay, very good. Good. All right. Well, thank you so much. So as you can see, this presentation was prepared before I actually was promoted. So it does have my former title there as a senior program officer for Main Street. And so we're really wanting to support you in your role as to help our committees be strong. That is really something that we try to do as Main Street directors and folks who work in Main Streets. And although, every Main Street program differs from another, we have one thing in common. We all rely on volunteers. And I can tell you, as a former executive director for our Main Street program here in Richmond, where I was director for almost 13 years, we could not have done all of that work without the help of volunteers. So again, not just your board, but also those volunteers that are part of your activities, programs, and events. And Main Street programs have three types of volunteers: the visionary leaders, who have the connections and experience that make them effective, um, the board members, the occasional volunteers who help when needed, and people who have the right skills and dedication to plan and implement projects through committees. So, it really is a major job, and it's really necessary to retain and train and motivate volunteers so that they want to come back and they want to continue to volunteer for you. So, here are a few reasons why people like to volunteer. I think I'm missing a slide there, but that's okay. So, really the Main Street programs are the backbone of successful Main Street programs. They're really the vehicle by which the board implements the work plan. And so as you put your work plan together, that should be some of the planning that goes into the work plan. Um, Committees are the the lifeline of a successful Main Street program. They enable partners to work together to accomplish common goals, and they help to develop leadership. One of the things that we did when I was in Richmond at Main Street, we had a youth program of volunteers that we worked with, and some of those volunteers became, regular volunteers through that youth program, and we had opened up a youth committee, and they planned activities that would be interesting to the youth, um, to participate. We also helped them. They helped us to develop our Instagram page and really get all of the, activity going there, because that wasn't something that we were doing previously. So really figuring out, what are some of the roles that you can involve different types of volunteers in your Main Street program. Volunteer recruitment is hard. Recruiting committed, consistent, reliable committee volunteers is even harder. And we know that there was a lot of challenge, over the past several years with the pandemic that came through. A lot of people lost volunteers, and it's been challenging to get them back on board to support your programs. So, it really is important to try to figure out, an outreach strategy, figure out what didn't work before, and, try to keep trying to figure out what might be something that will work based on the types of volunteers that you have in your area. I think partnering with other organizations, that was something that I did, was to partner with other organizations who also had a volunteer base, figuring out, what are some of the through lines with the volunteers that they have. The Richmond Main Street was partnered to a lot of other nonprofits that were in the area. And with that, we were able to, we had ongoing like monthly committee meetings with our Main Street program with our other partners, nonprofit partners. And with that, we were able to talk about what are some of the ways that they were able to keep their volunteers and the things that entice them to want to volunteer for the program. So why volunteers? These are some of the reasons why people volunteers. There's a personal tie to the cause. It's something that they care about. Volunteering is a great way to build your resume. Volunteering sets a good example for others, and you get to meet like-minded, motivated, positive people. And volunteering can offer unique and exciting opportunities. It creates a sense of empowerment, and it gives you greater perspective and self-awareness. I am one who has been a volunteer on many different, nonprofits. I volunteer at my church. I volunteer at my daughter's school. So that is a way for me to connect with people. It also is a way for me to give back to the community. So if you are a person who is affiliated with other organizations, that is a good place to talk to people about your organization and about volunteering at your organization, because generally those are like-minded people who are volunteering. So I think it's something that you should consider if you are a person who likes to volunteer also. So volunteers are really essential. That you gain community support and provide community outreach. They gain more expertise, accomplish more with limited funds. And, we know as Main Streeters or Main Street directors or program managers, it's almost impossible to get all of the work done just with staff. And I know that a lot of us are challenged in terms of our budgets, and what we can afford in terms of staffing. So again, this is one way to help with, you know, not preventing the burnout of the director and other staff as well. So finding the right committee volunteers first requires understanding of the committee's general responsibilities. So, generally speaking, with the approval of the board of directors, committees are responsible for, the following task, really determining the overall goals and prioritizing the objectives required to meet the goal, developing a balanced range of short and long-term goals and activities for each objective to give the program a record of accomplishment. And at the year's end, as well as, I'm sorry, my computer is stuck, as well as basis for more complex efforts in the future. Implementing several high visibility projects that can keep the efforts of the revitalization program in the public eye, while also addressing more established complex projects, may take a lot of behind the scenes work. So establishing, empowering, and monitoring ad hoc tasks for subcommittees to address specific issues or accomplish specific projects. It's important that each committee really, initiate working relationships with agencies and community groups that have similar types of projects. As I was saying, it really is good to look at other nonprofits or other groups. And they really should follow that 4-point approach, looking at developing your committees on the economic vitality, design, organization, and I'm sorry, marketing and promotions. So that is one of the ways that you really want to make sure your committees are organized. And here again is a committee structure based on the board of directors. We really recommend again that you have your committees in those 4-point approach. These are some of the activities that come under each of those 4 points: volunteer development, communications, public relations, and fundraising, all under organization, promotions and marketing strategy, development of retail promotions and special events, and design public spaces, building improvements, design education, environment, economic restructuring or economic vitality. I think this is a bit of an old slide. Sorry that I moved forward. Uh, and, really doing the market research, business assistance, financial assistance, and property development. And in my economic development or economic vitality committee, one of the things that we were able to do was do outreach to our property owners through our property business improvement district. We had really built good relationships with the property owners that were there and were able to get many of them serving on our committees. And with the service of those committee members and the engaged stakeholders, we built and organized and developed a plan to build out a co-working space. It was a 3-year project that we did. And because of the relationships that we had built through our committee outreach and our committee work, we were able to work with the city of Richmond, as well as the small scale developer and a corporate sponsor to build out this co-working business, a co-working space. And so again, it all started with our Economic Vitality Committee and the work that we did to establish a work plan, develop our goals, and what we saw as the need in the community. There are a lot of small businesses that were there, really aspiring businesses that wanted to get started. And so we wanted to be able to provide access to them, to provide education and training to them. And so with the work of our Economic Vitality Committee and those property owners, building those strong relationships, we were able to do a 3-year plan to get that co-working space opened. So if you're not sure whether your existing committee structure is working, you want to start by assessing what you have going on. So this is a document here that you could use to assess how the committees are doing. This came from Michigan. I think we can supply this information to you if it's something that you're interested. You really want to ask how people are doing, what do they think is working, what isn't working, and how can they improve. So again, I don't know if people are able to weigh in at all. Abigail, are they able to talk to me? I'd love to
Yeah.
hear. I don't want to just be a talking head here the whole time. And just ask folks if they have any type of document that they do that they share with their committee members to find out how they're doing or what they need. What are some of the things that people are doing in their communities?
Yeah, if anybody has something they want to share, I'm happy to unmute you, or you can throw it in the chat, or yeah, I can turn on your video and so I'll see if you're welcome to either raise your hand or throw something in the chat if you need me to.
Okay, nobody wants to say hello. Okay, that's okay. So you really want to make the necessary improvements and invest the time in doing it to build a strong committee structure and to really make certain that your committees are meeting the goals and that the folks that are serving on the committee feel like they are getting what they need out of it. I saw someone say something about a Google form or something.
Yeah, it looks like Josh from Terre Haute. Yeah, he said we typically do a Google form for like an evaluation, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
So, using the feedback that you receive from your current volunteers, you then want to start shaping the volunteer recruitment plan. A volunteer recruitment plan really begins with understanding what the need is for the volunteers, your annual work plans. Again, as I said, when you are developing your annual work plans with your board, that the volunteer piece of that should be included there, and include your organization's goal, and define specific jobs and skills that are needed to complete the projects. Again, a lot of us have, these kind of one-off volunteer opportunities that are for, an annual event or annual cleanup or those types of things. But some of us also have projects that are ongoing, like the one that I just spoke about. And so with that, you need a little bit more skilled volunteers. And so you really want to make certain that you're uh, detailing out, what it is that will entail for the specific project that is maybe a little bit more long term, so people know what they're getting into, and so you really want to have that information available to them so they know that. And again, this is a plan that was produced from National Main Street, and it shows you how you can really look through what is the contact, when are you going to start and end the project, who's responsible for it, what team is really working on the particular project, to give a little bit more in-depth information to folks who want to serve on a more of a long-term project. And I don't know how many people actually advertise for their volunteers, but here again are some advertisements for volunteers that we can share with you if you don't have a job description and things like that. Um, but it is something that uh, I think is a little bit more helpful than just a general kind of please come, we need your help on this date. Especially for those who are looking at ongoing committee service and wanting to have volunteers that are going to be there, not just for the one-off, but ongoing projects. So you want to make certain that you really have are recruiting folks with the qualifications and the skills that are required for those longer term projects. But in terms of also just your social events and those one-off events that you have, annual events, you also want to have the right kind of people that are willing to come and work those types of events. Often they can be really taxing. I know we had several summertime events that we did, and our large scale signature event. I think we had probably about 50 volunteers to come on that day. It was an all day kind of festival. And so with that, you want to make certain that people, are physically able to, do the tasks that are outlined for that particular event. So again, having a clear, job description for what it is that you need the volunteer for is really going to be very important. So, recruiting volunteers, whether you are recruiting a corporation to sponsor your activities or hosting a downtown festival, engaging with volunteers is really critical to the success. And again, as we said, community leaders come together to fill important community positions. Volunteer leaders bring enthusiasm. They generally are trustworthy. You want to make certain of that. You want to get a reference if you can. Because sometimes I know with our events, there often can be, a lot of cash that's around. So that's something that you want to be cognizant of to make certain that you have folks that are trustworthy. And that's why I think getting recommendations from others who have worked with particular people, specifically if you know that there will be that type of uh, challenge around having cash or anything like that, could be something that you want to consider. Um, but it is a chance for folks to learn new skills, to build their network and build community together. So uh, that's something to consider. Recruiting volunteers. Your main objective, again, is to build a sense of ownership in the downtown from each member of the community with a commitment to revitalize and sustain it as a vital part of their identity, past, present, and future. So I know one of the things that was like really important for us for one of our events was that historical or cultural preservation piece. So we did do outreach to some of our elders that were in the community to have a table set up for them to share stories, which I think is something that was a little bit unique. And so something that you might consider folks who've been around for a really long time and have those stories that may not be known to the younger community or whatever. So that's something that I think is somewhat unique and something that you could consider that you might want to do. So how do you get you know, committee volunteers? You can have ads, articles, posters, personal recruitment, word of mouth, um, newspapers, newsletters. Most people do some type of e-newsletter, some e-blast or something like that. So connecting again with your partners, with the city, with others to get in their newsletter to put the word out about what your needs are. That's one way of doing it. But again, there are many different ways. Some people still like to get a flyer in their hand. Or, I know right now, most people are not sending out, um, you know, mailing things. People are doing more of the texting or of the email types of blast. But again, some people, depending on what your community looks like, are still reading their newsletters or newspapers. So that might be something that you want to consider as well. Knowing your community is key. So knowing, how your community is really getting their news, how they are really connecting with people is also really important. So again, some of the basics appeal to special interest groups, schools, university, churches, civic organizations, senior organizations, newcomer packets that you want to put together so that you have something to distribute to them when you go to these places. Senior, centers and churches, I think, are really great places again to recruit volunteers. Again, I have recruited volunteers from my church and also the senior center. As I said, we had the volunteers to set up a table, talk about their cultural experience and memories of downtown. So I think those are great places that you want to consider. So again, having speaking engagements and doing presentations, city council obviously would be a great place for you to go and talk about your organization, talk about your programs and your projects. And that is a good way to recruit folks. Also, again, that partnership with other nonprofits who have volunteers, who have other events, that's a good place to do it as well. So through workshops, social gatherings, and other civic organizations. So this, I think, is a great idea, is to host a matchmaking event where potential volunteers can meet and interact with committee members, create an informal setting where they can learn about committee roles and responsibilities and find the best fit for their interest. Um, so this one example here is property owners and merchants and volunteers, donors and board members having a Main Street mixer And I think that that's a great opportunity to get people together, just talking. It's, not, it's easy and I think really social. And so people don't feel, I think, put off in that kind of setting. So it was a 3 hour event and they had like 125 guests. Um, the first half of the mixer, the participants just mingled and enjoyed complimentary complimentary beverages and snacks during the social hour. And then later they talked about the mission of the organization. And then attendees were invited to get involved and stop by, activity stations, so really having this kind of mixer with social events, with tables and information about your various different projects, I think is a good way for people to get kind of integrated and oriented about your organization and the work that you're doing. So it's also a great photo opportunity. If you're able to have uh, one of those banners there where you all can kind of take pictures and have a good photographer to capture those things and then send it out in your newsletter so people can see, how much fun people are having in these type of events and maybe get interested in coming. So you might want to do a brainstorm of figuring out who should be invited to these events. So your current volunteers that you have, it's for your board and others, um, work with them to figure out who's not in the room, who are we missing. We kind of keep getting the same people over and over again. So maybe that's because we're not really getting out broadly enough into the community to let folks know who we are and that there are opportunities there. So this is a forum for you to kind of brainstorm, to talk about and think about who else might be a good volunteer for your organization, specifically, for certain committees and different things like that. So this is something we can share with you as well. So you can also recruit volunteers um, by making it a friendly competition or, offering some type of incentive or prize. Um, so another strategy is to match a recruiter with the audience. For example, ask the college student to recruit other college students, Rotary Club members to recruit other Rotarians. Um, I was a Kiwanian, and so you might want to recruit other Kiwanians. Make sure your recruiters are strong ambassadors for the organizations. Um, and they should be able to talk about the organization and your goals and your current projects. And that's why it is really good to have, some type of orientation that you do with your volunteers and your board, really making certain that they understand the mission of the organization and have that, strong advocacy voice that they talk to others about so that the others will also be enticed to want to be involved. So this is something that people are now looking at as well, thinking about other ways that people can volunteer, not just in person. Virtual volunteer is another opportunity. Some folks are not so, eager to get out in the community and be around a whole bunch of other folks or whatever, or they have special skills that they can do working at home, and some of those things that you might want to consider are, graphic design, social media management, language translation, or virtual types of training. So there's a lot of other types of volunteering than just the in-person type of volunteer. you want to consider, redefining and looking really closely at these opportunities. So, make it part of someone's paid job. Corporate volunteering partnerships reach out to local businesses and corporations to establish volunteer partnerships. So, one of the major industries in Richmond is Chevron, and that organization has a really robust volunteer program. They have a volunteer work week where you can have a volunteer for entire week to do some of your more detailed types of projects, maybe a community cleanup, if you have some construction type of projects or painting or things like that. We were able to use volunteers to help to clean up a community garden that we had. They also came in and did some painting for us. And so often the corporations will have volunteers with specific skills that can help you. And so that's really something to consider to go out and talk to the businesses. A lot of the corporations specifically um, provide incentives for their staff and employees to volunteer. So they're very, very eager. I can say that Chevron definitely was one of our, the volunteers there were some of our best volunteers, and they always wanted to come back. They were always on time and really willing to go the extra mile. So, again, thinking about other real partners and businesses that have volunteer programs already in place is something that you want to do. So, that volunteer work week is something that could be very beneficial to your organization. And again, not only do they do these, like events and outdoor projects and things like that, they also can do some administrative types of projects for you as well. So that's something to consider. And so here's a little bit of California for you. Here's a couple of communities here in my neck of the woods, in Benicia, in East Oakland, and in Livermore. And these are all some volunteers, I think, that were part of an ongoing volunteer program. They had the youth volunteers, and you really want to think again broadly about the demographics. Who are you reaching? Who are you not reaching? Again, if you keep getting the same folks all the time, then maybe there's a different approach that you need to think about. So, group volunteering is another great way. Family, neighborhood, or business groups take on roles, guaranteeing that among their group, they will ensure that the task at hand is always covered. So, volunteering can be a really fun group activity, connecting again with those businesses that have volunteer groups that are already in place. Um, these businesses really generally have strong volunteers that you can depend on. One of the challenges I know with volunteering is often people will sign up for something and then they don't show up. So, really working with folks who have a solid foundation of volunteers will really help you to develop your volunteer program, and kind of sharing that partnership, I think, is very helpful in ensuring that you have a good volunteer base. So, negotiate, what's negotiable? Finding the right volunteer for each role may require some creativity. Again, not every volunteer is right for every project or for every event. And so you really want to learn from them what are the things that interest them? What are the things that they have skills around and the things that they want to do? If a volunteer is interested, you can work together to determine, what role will really work for them and modify things to make certain that it's something that meets the need of the volunteer and meets your need so that hopefully will be mutually beneficial. So substitutes, if you're really investing a lot in training and really need that return on the investment, you can consider offering substitute or a backup role. There may be folks who are more than happy to go through all the training, but can't commit to obligation for a year, but could be available as a substitute when your regular volunteer is unavailable. So providing, the volunteer role that is a better fit. Job sharing, perhaps a volunteer role feels, like it's not or a little bit too much for one volunteer. So you could split that role in between, several volunteers or two volunteers to make it more manageable. So yeah, you really want to consider volunteer reference form when vetting potential committee volunteers. Um, some of these are bigger responsibilities. Again, I talked about the possibility of someone having to, uh, carry cash or do anything like that. That could be something that you really have to have some vetting to make certain that that person is trustworthy. Um, so does anyone out there, do you have anything like this that you've tried in terms of getting recommendations from others and then having them kind of fill out a form to learn more about them, to kind of vet them to make certain that they would be a good fit for your organization, for your committee, or for a particular project or event? What have you tried?
Again, feel free to either throw it in the chat or if you raise your hand, you should all have the ability to do that, I think. I'm happy to unmute you or must be that 2 o'clock feeling here. Okay, Josh is raising his hand. Here, hold on one second, Josh. Let me get you unmuted.
Somebody here.
Okay, you should be able to unmute now, Josh.
All right, thank you. Yeah, you kind of answered the question I put into the chat earlier. I think that this is great. We do not currently do this. I think the way that we vetted is through Brazil Main Street, which is a small rural community. We have membership and a volunteer base, so our membership pay annual dues. It's inexpensive, $60 a year, and those are the folks that are on our committees and leading the committees. And then the volunteers kind of protect us. Those are ones that might show up and help do, a beautification project, come and help out at an event. That's kind of our vetting process.
Yeah.
My question kind of in the chat was, and a lot of the different ways that you mentioned getting volunteers, you might have 10 to 15 people that you don't know. What happens if they even do something illegal?
Right.
We haven't had any issues with that, but something I've been thinking about. Just, we've had some folks that have needed community service hours, and we know them slightly, know somebody who knows them, that sort of thing. And my mind just always goes to what happens even though they're not an official member, they're just doing one single project. If something bad happens, how does that come back on us, liability wise and PR wise? So I know that was a long-winded answer, but definitely something we've been thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's always a good idea to have folks to sign some type of waiver or something that you have in writing that explains, what the activity is, what the liability is, and all of those things. Generally, that was something that we would have specifically if we had, kind of the one-off types of volunteers that came through, maybe doing the community service type of thing. And so just being really mindful of the types of projects that you would have them to be involved with also, because you don't necessarily have that relationship or connection or have that background to know. So just as a way to protect you and your organization, having them to sign some type of, you know, document and waiver to make certain that you are covering yourself.
Yeah, and I would just quickly add to that, I think this is kind of when, I mean, I know probably many of you, if I've been ever to your Main Street to talk about volunteer recruitment or anything like that, creating some kind of structure and process. It's annoying on the front hand to have to create all those, some of the resources that Amanda has shown so far, kind of putting those all together, almost creating a flow of like, okay, what is almost the experience of somebody who, from the moment they get in touch with us about volunteering to actually getting them into a volunteer position or on a committee, like almost writing out what the flow of that needs to be. Because then I feel like a lot of those things you start to think about like, oh, we should probably have them sign something,
Yeah.
if they're going to be handling money or if they're going to be, so I think some of that stuff starts to come up when you start kind of mapping it out almost. And so I definitely think that's something that your org committee or whoever kind of handles volunteer recruitment can kind of start looking at if they haven't yet. But anyway.
I saw something in the chat. Someone said something about
Yes.
strong
Oh, yeah.
volunteers.
Yeah. Eva said, we have found that our strong volunteers are somehow connected to our board. We don't get much response on social media, email. It is a personal connection for us.
Yeah. Generally, that is the case. Especially if you're looking for, the volunteers that are going to be serving ongoing on committees and things like that. So yes, I would agree. So sponsorships for volunteer recruitment, you could create a customized sponsorship package for volunteers. Your package could represent, a fair return on investment that you're seeking. It should represent that. Some benefits that you could consider is a sponsorship at a press conference, and you would talk about who your sponsor was. And you could also include their logo on all the related materials and training kits and t-shirts. And providing a free space at your outdoor events for your sponsors. And at the very least, including a line item in your budget can help you prioritize volunteer recruitment. So that's something that you, again, when you're working with the board, when you're going through your work plan and looking at your budget, what are we doing specifically to recruit volunteers? If you are looking at taking out ads, if you are looking at some other things that may have a bit of a cost to it, you could you should include that in your budget so you have some funding there that you can use for that, and that is something that you want to be able to consider. So never assume what a volunteer wants to do, and never dictate what a volunteer should do. So when it comes to recruitment, you really want to make certain that you are understanding what the volunteer is good at, what they like doing. And again, that comes with kind of doing a little bit of vetting, having the job description that's out there, also doing, a survey of some sort when you are recruiting folks. Um, and that will help you to determine if you have the right person for the right volunteer opportunity. And again, you should have those things clearly defined in terms of what the volunteer opportunity entails. and know what you want to really accomplish beforehand. I think what happens a lot of times is we have a vague idea about what we want, and it's not really clear. We know we need help, but I think being really prepared and being specific will help you to recruit the type of volunteer that you need. Often, things do change, and you may start out with something and things change, but having a clear outline and understanding of what the need is going to make it a lot easier for you to recruit the right person for the position and the job. So use upbeat and positive information when you are recruiting. Tell people what you're really looking for. Say what you want rather than what you need. Appeal, that appeals more to the volunteers. I see people are still trying to come in. Don't assume that a public relations specialist will want to volunteer for the organization in that type of role. You never know. Some people, because that's their job, they want to do something else when they volunteer. So, you want to, again, find out in that vetting process, what are the skills and what are the interests of the volunteer. Make certain it's a good fit. If you do decide to, go with the volunteer, you want to not take too much time because the lag between a volunteer interview and making assignments, you kind of risk the possibility of losing them if it takes too long for you to get back to them and for you to figure out specifically what role that you want them to do. People kind of move on. So you want to keep track of your new recruits. And there are many different customer relations type of systems that you can keep track of volunteers through. This is Maestro. We used FileMaker Pro. It's another customer relations type of management system, and also Salesforce. How many of you out there are using any type of system like this to keep track of your volunteers and their hours and projects and things like that? Is anybody out there using Maestro?
I mean, I will say for any of our communities that are on here who are our nationally accredited or Indiana accredited, we pay for that. So we pay for Maestro for them.
Okay.
So we kind of like, we do some with them in terms of like reporting and all of that through it. Some of our communities, they choose to kind of use like a lot of different features for it. And then some of them just do the basic, like, work plans, kind of get in the business property info, all of that. But yeah, I would be definitely curious if anybody has found a way to use it in this way that Amanda's talking about with the volunteer recruitment piece of really kind of being able to track some more detailed, I think, information about volunteers. I don't know if anyone's kind of gotten into that part of it yet, but
Someone has raised their hand.
yes, Eva. Oh, she took it down.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's back. Okay, here. Hold on, Eva. Okay, you should be able to unmute yourself now, Eva.
Hello.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, we have Maestro, and before Maestro, we had developed a spreadsheet and then a recruitment tool and program, the whole program where the volunteers come in and do training and how we track them. And we have really been able to gain a lot of volunteers that way.
That's
So we
great.
kind of keep a program going.
Excellent. That's exactly, I think, a great way to be able to maintain programs. And, orientation and training, again, is really, I think, critical and crucial
Mhm.
to maintaining and keeping a high level of volunteers. So we offer a lot, and I guess Indiana Main Street, you guys have a program guidebook already. So that's something that I
It's
guess
being
is
updated currently, so it needs
okay.
some updates, but yes, we do have one.
Very good. So I highly also recommend that you go to the Main Street .org website. There are all types of videos and training materials and resources that are available through Main Street America. Here are a couple of the foundation videos. Those are specific to help people to understand what Main Street is. They're really kind of short, but somewhat in-depth videos to talk about, you know, the 4 points. I did one on organization. So if you go up there, you'll see mine up there too. So yeah, those are really great. And again, Main Street America just has a wealth of information that is available to you. Again, here's another volunteer you know, document that you might want to use in terms of checking in with your volunteers. If a volunteer program is relatively structured, you know, you want to have that confidentiality that's going on. You really want to have a review to make it, you can be formal or informal. It could be a little bit much for, again, volunteers that are not that tied to the organization. But those who are tied to the organization, you might want to do these annual type of reviews to figure out how they're feeling, how motivated they are. You know, what are the things that are potentially missing that could help them in their volunteer role and to feel more committed to the organization. So what's going well, what's not. But again, this might be, I think, more than you want to do for some of those short-term type of volunteers. This would be something for your committee members that have been there for a while and will want to continue to volunteer. So here's again an example of a volunteer evaluation tool. And I think we are coming up on the end. I don't know if I have a couple more slides here.
Yeah, you're
So,
good.
okay. So thinking more about your role as a, you know, volunteer recruiter, you really want to think through those paid responsibilities and, you know, uh-oh, did I just stop my share?
I still see it, so I think you're okay.
I don't see it though.
Oh no.
Is it? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not, I don't generally present in teams, so this is very
No, you're
different
fine.
for me.
I understand.
Um,
No worries.
Is it coming back? Okay, let me see here. I'm not sure where it went. I'm not able to um, advance it.
Uh,
So sorry, there were just a few more slides there, but
if I do it, did that work?
let's see.
If for some reason it let me advance it, I don't know why, but
Um,
okay, if I sync it back to you, then it still says, who knows? I was just trying to see if that would work, but I don't think it did.
let's see. I go back to share. Okay.
I see that again, so that's good.
Okay, let's see. I'm so sorry. This is really
It's
quite
okay. It's just,
hilarious.
technology, sometimes it just really loves to mess with us.
Oh my God. Now it just won't stop. Okay.
Is it still doing that on your end?
Yeah, it's like going
Going
bonkers.
crazy?
Yeah. So with that, I don't want everyone to have to see all this craziness here. So I'm going to stop sharing. Let's see. Did it stop? Now I can't get out of it. Oh, I was on a flow there, but then it just
I know.
went
Here, let
bonkers.
me
I don't know what's going
see.
on with my computer.
Let me see if I can oh,
It,
I was gonna see if I shared and stopped sharing. There we go.
okay.
Did that help?
Yeah, I'm not
We're
sure.
thinking. Okay.
But I, just did want to leave everyone with the idea that, um, recruiting volunteers, especially for committees, is challenging. It does take presenting a full plan. So putting a full plan in place to make certain that you are really recruiting the volunteers that are the right ones for the right project. We do have some tools that are available to you for recruitment, really looking at diverse groups to be included in your recruitment process and to be a part of the volunteers that are serving on your committees. Um, Thinking long term about how you want to develop the volunteer program that you have. Uh, Again, making it more of a program than just a one-off is something that you want to think about specifically for your committees. Um, so it's not just getting out there and just, hey, come on and let's be a part of Main Street, but really having a structured strategy and approach to recruiting the volunteers so that they are long lasting, so that they can be advocates for your organization and to build leadership. Potentially, folks who are serving on committees or who are volunteering for projects may eventually want to serve on your board. So again, it's a broad type of process that should be looked at, seriously, and can really add value to your organization, specifically if you are a small organization. For me, we had two full-time employees and a part-time employee. For a long time, actually, it was just me. So I relied very heavily on volunteers to help. I did a lot of, building relationships with other organizations that were in the community. Again, I was a Kiwanian. I went to Rotary. I presented about our organization, talked about our projects, talked about what the need was for our organization, and all of those things really did help me to recruit volunteers and some long-term volunteers. Again, some of those long-term volunteers became board members and also supported our efforts. The ones who served again on our economic development committee were very instrumental in planning a 3-year process that eventually we were able to open up a co-working space and a business hub. So that is how deep it can get and how successful you can be if you recruit the right volunteers into your organization and onto your committees. So again, I really apologize that I had such technology challenges here, and was not
Totally
able
okay.
to go through to the end of the presentation. There were about 10 more slides, but we will provide these slides to everyone. Is that right, Abigail?
Yeah, I will send everything out. Probably, I have a couple more meetings today, everyone, so I'll get it to you by at least tomorrow morning. But yeah, we'll send the recording of everything. We'll send the slides. I'll also try, Amanda, whether you send me some of those resources that you mentioned throughout, or I can pull them from Michigan's, but we'll try to send those to you all as well. And the other thing I wanted to mention was if any of you are like, we just need to brainstorm about like a process that works for us for like how to kind of organize more committees. Cause I know I've heard from a lot of you that, you kind of feel like, especially as directors, if you're a director and you're jumping around to all of your different committee meetings and you feel like you're kind of being pulled in a lot of directions and you're kind of managing them, not really committee chairs. If that's something that you're struggling with, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to hop on a call and we can kind of like brainstorm and talk about, again, a way to kind of look at that process. And because I do think depending on your organization, it might look different, for you of what that kind of recruitment process / how you want to organize and manage those committees. But yeah, always willing to kind of just brainstorm and throw out ideas because I think we have to be creative in this day and age. As Amanda said, throughout her presentation. So always willing to have those conversations if you guys need. But yeah, thank you so much, Amanda. Really appreciated just the information and the ideas and some of the things that you were able to just tell us from your experience. So really appreciate your time. And yeah, sorry about the technology issues. That was more our fault.
No, I'm so sorry.
Microsoft Teams
But
just sometimes does not love
oh
us,
my
but that's
God,
okay.
it's not my friend. I'm like, what are you doing to me? I'm so
I
sorry.
know.
So,
Nope.
and if there are any, questions that folks have of me, I'm here for a minute if you have a few questions or anything.
Yeah, did anybody have anything that they were wanting to, and Amanda, if it's okay are you okay if I share your email out to folks who are on
Oh
this
yeah, please
call
do.
if they have
Yeah.
any specific questions about, things, but if anyone does, I'm happy to either unmute you or you can send it in the chat. Maybe not. Okay. All right. Well, that's fine. I will definitely send out Amanda's contact to you all. So if you do have specific questions, you're welcome to ask her. So, all right. Well, thanks everyone. Have a good rest of your day. And yeah, hopefully we'll get to talk to you soon. Thanks, Amanda. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.